I am Karen DeArmond Gardner. I walked away from a 30-year abusive marriage. I was 20 years old. High school friend introduced me to this guy. All the while, it was learning your secrets, your boundaries, your non-negotiables. There was this other guy that was hidden beneath the facade. So this naive girl gets married after 2.5 months. He did not turn immediately into a monster. It's happened slowly, steadily over time. He moved me away from my family and we lived close to his family. So I became isolated. It was always the put downs, assault on your character, on your personality, of everything that you did and that you do. It was assault. So the first year I went home and he was kind of mad before I left, but when I got back, he had to punish me for going. He kicked me. I didn't react. That's hard to look back on and realize that you didn't think that this wasn't okay. I went looking for something that was in our basement. I couldn't find it. I had one thing from my father and I went looking for it. And his response was, "Oh, I might have accidentally thrown out that piece of luggage." Only I realized years later he knew exactly what was in it. By the time that we had kids, you were kind of stuck in it. I didn't even honestly acknowledge that I was in an abusive relationship. I cannot tell you how often the physical abuse happened. Sometimes physical abuse wasn't a punch, it was squeezing your fingers, or they hug you, but it's really tight and uncomfortable. It's not loving and comforting. Or they squeeze your leg, or they yank on your finger. All these little tiny things are happening that seem so inconsequential in the moment, and you never equate them. His hitting always had a purpose. It could be also the times with just throwing a plate next to your head, making you sleep on the floor, or not allowing you to drive his car, sleep in his bed, or eat his food. After a couple of years, I walked away because I couldn't anymore and went back to the high school self that I was. I was just so disappointed in myself and especially in God. What kind of God would allow this to happen? The kids still weren't always aware. They just knew that sometimes dad wasn't happy. He was a cheater. 1982, he became a law enforcement officer. Sometimes people say, "Why didn't you call the police?" And I'm like, because he was one. All of our friends were. I'm in a home where I should have felt the most safe, and I was not. And he was wicked cruel. We were married for 30 years, 4 months, and 2 days. Something small happened. He came home, and for some reason, I was cleaning in the bathroom and I broke a lamp. No big deal, but it set me into a panic. So when he came home, I tell him that I broke the lamp, and he just went off. And it was summertime and it was hot. He threw me out of the house and he told the kids, "Do not let your mom in the house." So they would give me a drink, a Diet Coke, water. For the first night, I slept in the cab of our pickup truck. Shortly after that, he came out and he locked the cab of the pickup truck, so I couldn't sleep in it. I walked to a friend's house. I had to walk to a gas station to go to the bathroom. Sweaty, nasty, gross, dirty. But I walked to a friend's house and it turns out she wasn't home because I was going to tell somebody. She's the only person I trusted and she wasn't home. And so I walked all the way back, and I don't even know how many miles this was. It was a few. I came back, and that night my kids gave me, I got a sheet from them, and I slept on the porch under a sheet because of the mosquitoes. And I called into work to tell them I couldn't go to work. I didn't want the neighbor across the street to see, and I was on my knees begging him to let me come in to get ready so I could go to work because I needed to go to work. And he did. And then I walked 3 miles to work. And he even said to me one time, "It's my job to punish you." And I looked at him and said, "No, it is not your job to punish me. I am not your child." But I made excuses for him all the time. I made so many excuses for him. He had a bad day. He didn't really mean it. I made excuses to my kids of why dad is acting like he was. And things just really did, up and through their high school years, were just not good. If he wanted to hit me, he would goad me. He would pick and pick and pick and pick until I would blow up. And then it gave him a reason to hit me. It was 2003, winter. He got mad. I came home from work. I walked home in the snow. He wouldn't let me in the house. So here I am outside, freezing cold, snow. I'm just so angry. All of a sudden, I fell. I hit a patch of ice and I went down in my left arm. I knew it wasn't right. I had the forethought to take off my rings because I had a feeling that they were going to swell up. I'm just sitting on the steps and I'm just rocking and crying and sobbing. And he comes home and he opens the door and I follow him in the house. And I said, I fell and I think I might have broke my arm. And all of a sudden, everything changes and he's being nice. And he loads me in the cruiser and takes me up to the ER. On the wall, I see a sign that says, "Are you in domestic abuse?" Has all these things listed. And I'm like I'm going to tell you when he's sitting right here in the room and he's dressed in his uniform and all these nurses know him and everybody likes him. Now, when my son found out, he thought that his dad had broken my arm. And he did in a roundabout way. When my son called my daughter, she thought I was dead. One of the things in all this time is that we always moved. He would leave a job because, everybody was a problem except for him. He would change departments. We were in constant debt. So there was the impossibility to stay. So in 2003, we ended up filing for bankruptcy, which was to me so horrifying, but was actually, I realized, was the best thing that ever could happen. It was a setup that I didn't even know was coming. On our 29th anniversary in 2003, August 24th, he came home. He was working, the shift he was on was from the afternoon till 3 or 4 in the morning. And he came home sometime in the night. He got so angry at me and he assaulted me. He just started wailing on me. And he had never done it this way before. This was our 29th wedding anniversary. And he wailed and he wailed. And our son was living with us at the time. And he kept going and he told me to get my stuff. I guess I grabbed my purse and he just shoved me out the door, my shoes, and I just started walking. I stayed at my daughter's for a couple of weeks and then I went to Michigan to see a friend from college and I spent a couple of weeks with her. In that time I was away, he got right with Jesus because he had changed. I thought I was supposed to go back. I thought, he's a different guy. He's telling me all this stuff, but there was something inside of me that didn't want to go. The whole 2 weeks I was with my friend, he had to call me every single night. And every time he called, such a knot in my stomach. He ended up telling his boss, the sheriff, that what he did, and he went to court and he got a misdemeanor with a $50 fine and he lost his job. That's all I was worth, is a $50 fine. I stood by him and he lost his commission as law enforcement, so he could never be law enforcement again. Thank goodness now. And he was different. I got to tell you, he was different. He wasn't abusive. He didn't put me down. He was nice. But by June of 2004, I came home from work and I came in and I was so excited because I had just got a huge bonus and a raise. And I looked at him and I'm telling him, and he looked straight ahead, never acknowledged that I said anything. And in that moment, I knew I was done. I didn't know what to do about it at that point, but I knew at that moment, this man was no longer worth my time, my effort, anything. Because I realized I had fallen out of love with him when we had been married 10 years and he had that affair, that I was making myself thinking that I loved him. So then August 30th anniversary, day before, he was just awful all day long. He could just shred you with his word. His favorite one was, if someone kidnapped you, they would get you under a street light and they'd let you go, implying that I was ugly, that I was fat. And I gotta tell you, the only time that I was overweight was when I was pregnant. But he, on the other hand, was way overweight. And then on the day of our anniversary, we go out to eat and it's like, oh, it's our 30th anniversary. Oh, look at us. And people are like, oh, wow, how amazing. It was just the show that you put on. September of 2004, I get a magazine in the mail. It was a Christian women's magazine. And I'm reading through it, and there's this article about domestic abuse. And I'm reading this unbelievably horrified at what I'm reading, because in 2004, people didn't talk about this, especially in Christianity. And here's this article. My daughter calls me because she was getting the same magazine. And she calls me and she goes, Mom. And I go, yes. She goes, did you get your magazine? Yes. Did you read that article? Yes. It's Dad. Yes. And so my mom came up in December for my daughter's graduation from college, and she was staying through the holidays. He just made everybody uncomfortable with his silence and just being himself. So the week before Christmas, at some point, I obviously said to her, I want to leave. We prepared because mom was staying in the bedroom. We had this small bungalow house. So all of my things were in the extra bedroom, my vanity where I put on my makeup, and all my clothes were in this other room. Oh, her plan was she came up and said, "Hey, Karen, I've been buying so many Christmas presents. Do you have that extra suitcase that I bought you or that I gave to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, let me get it for you." So I gave it to her because that all happened in front of him. And she started packing all my clothes when she would go into her room at night to sleep. She was packing my clothes all week long. Christmas night was the worst night ever. After everybody went to bed, he berated me. He wouldn't let me go to sleep, kept me up till 3 o'clock in the morning. And he just went on, "If you ever cheat, I will kill you. If you ever do this, I will kill you." It was on and on and on and on. It's just words that over and over and over again. And that was probably the main thread that he would say periodically: "If you ever cheat on me, I will kill you." And I woke up at 9 o'clock in the morning. And as far as he knew, mom and I were going to church. We went, grabbed all our stuff, threw it in the trunk of the car, and the battery was dead, would not start. And I was freaking out. And my mom's like, "Karen, stop. Karen, I'll call AAA." And so we went a block away to a little like gas grocery store type place. And when the tow truck driver showed up, I said, "I'm running away from home. Do not wake him up." And so they got the car started. My mom drove it back over and we left. And I was gone for a week. And then I came back because I had a job and I was on vacation and I had to come back. I did not see him for 24 days. So January 18th, he knew where I was going to be. I was leaving these friends' house and I looked at my rearview mirror and I saw his vehicle and I locked my door. I panicked. I was in a panic and I locked my door. And just as I locked it, he walked up in traffic and tried to open the door. And then he's like, "I want to talk to you." And I'm like, "No, I do not." And the light changed and I took off and left him there. And I started driving to the apartment that I was staying at with a friend. And when it occurred to me, I cannot take him to where I live. So I kept driving. The sun dropped and it was dark. I drove 8 miles and he, being a law enforcement officer, he knew how to tail a person. He stayed on my tail. I kept praying for red lights. I am screaming. I'm crying. I have my daughter on the phone and I don't know what to do. And I just completely lost my mind. He ran red lights so he could stay on my tail. And I mean, he was literally just bumper to bumper. Then he forced me, we're in a more of a neighborhood type place, and he forced me into this neighborhood. And it didn't occur to me to honk my horn, to even call 911. None of this occurred to me. And my daughter's finally going, "Mom, call 911. He turned and our cars crashed. And he has this really old pickup. It's made out of metal. So it's not fiberglass like they are today. And I'm trying to back out and rip the mirror off of the car, trying to get away. And he jumps out and he comes out and he is a big guy. He pulls back his arm in front of him and to get full force to, and he elbows the driver's window. It should have shattered. And it didn't. His arm literally bounced off and he almost punched himself in the face. And by this time, I'm dialing 911. And he just looks at me, "So are you calling the police?" I just looked at him and he walked away. This whole drive, this whole adrenaline, everything, I'm just freaking out. And I'm trying to tell the police where I am, and I don't know where I am. And I had to drive a little bit to see a sign down the street. And so he's standing there, and the cops show up, and there's 2 of them. And one talks to him, and one talks to me. And the officer looks at me, and he said, "Has this happened before?" I couldn't admit it. I was just silent. I was just silent. I couldn't. And he goes, "Ma'am." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Do you want me to arrest him?" And I remember looking down the street. And I thought, my first thought was, he would be so mad. And I said, "No, one regret." And I said, "Because I'm leaving. I'm moving to Texas and I'm leaving." So the officer said that they kept him there, and I ended up going to my daughter's, and the next day I flew to Texas. and never went back. And that was 19 years ago. At the time, what I was feeling mostly was anxiousness and fear because I had stopped feeling a long time before this. When I went to my family's house and I started telling them the stories of what my life was like, I mean, I knew it was bad, but the looks on their faces told me it was so much worse than I knew it was. So fast forward 19 years, I am 70 years old. I still grapple with that one, but I am proof that when I started over my life, I was 51. I was 51 years old when I started over and had a career for the first time in my life. I started discovering through that time who I was. The healing was happening, but most of my healing, I will admit, has happened in the last few years as I've grown in awareness of who I really am, even who God really is. At some point during the marriage, I got right with Jesus and it transformed my life. I would not have gotten through those years without the Lord, but even now, I recognize just how little I knew about who he was, because abuse, it deforms what we know about God and who he really is. And it takes a lot of time to deconstruct all those beliefs. I'm an advocate for women. I help women in the aftermath of domestic abuse, whether he hits you or not, coercive control, whatever it is. Sometimes I talk to women as they're leaving and they're trying to figure out what to do and they're doing the back and forth. They don't know if they should go. I never tell them what to do, but I walk through hell with women because they don't know what's real and what's normal when you come out. They don't know what to do. They don't know. They're so angry at themselves, at God, at him. And as Christians, you may have been taught it's not right to be angry. You don't want to be bitter. Well, sometimes you need to be angry and you do need to be bitter. It's a process you have to walk through. And I had no one to walk through it with me. Yes, my family was there for me, but they didn't know what to do. They had dealt with this. I realized looking back, I never knew what love was. I never loved my ex-husband. He didn't love me because that's not love. For those of you that are not sure if you're being abused, if you have to ask the question, you probably are. And it's really hard to leave. And nobody can tell you to leave. We can't. My mom never forced me. She never told me I should. She left it up to me. But it is so hard. Leaving is hard, but it's worth it. And it may take you 6 or 8 times to leave and to stay gone because we just want to believe that they're really not that bad. When you're dealing with the emotions that you think might be bad, well, I need to forgive him. No, you don't. Oh, there's a time for that later. Right now, it's all about you, where your heart is, and taking care of you, because I can tell you, justice is more about your heart than it is with him getting punished. God cares more about our hearts. He's for the vulnerable. And I will tell you, we've been taught that God hates divorce, and I'm telling you, he loves you more than he hates divorce. And he loves you more than he loves marriage, because people are what's important. People that are broken, people that are shattered, children and women are more important to God than marriage. And I know we have not been taught that often, that marriage, you've got to protect the marriage, you've got to stand by your man. But what if that's all wrong? What if everything you've been taught is wrong? And what if everything that you're feeling is right and normal, though it may not be forever? But it is your now, and I can guarantee you, God is as angry as you are at what the abuser did. And this was not part of his plan to make you a strong woman. That's not part of his plan. He does not put us in abusive situations so that we can be a better woman. That's not what that's so against his character. What makes you the woman that you are will be the healing that you choose to do. That's what brings the beauty out, not your pain. It's the healing from the pain that makes us beautiful. The book that I wrote that came out in 2021, which is Hope for Healing from Domestic Abuse, is not a memoir. It is when you are ready to heal, that's what my book is for, is to take you through that healing process. It's to help you to know what is real and what is normal. And even though it's 12 chapters, it doesn't mean that everything happens in a step-by-step. And it's the book I didn't want to write. And I put enough of my story in there so that women will know that I know what they've experienced. But there's enough of it in there that women can find their own stories within my book. And the goal of my book is to help women heal, because that's the most important thing. Because I've met women who have been out for 20 or 30 years who still act like they've in the abusive marriage. They have never healed because they didn't know they could. And not everybody can afford to do a therapist. Not everybody has access to resources. And so my book is the book that I needed when I came out that I didn't know I needed. And again, it's hope for healing from domestic abuse.